out of apartment 5B.
You're now tuned into the Apartment 5B podcast, where we chop it up about hip-hop, R&B, sports, love and life. Hosted by Kill.
What's good? You are tuned into Apartment 5B podcast hosted by your man Kill. I got my squad with me in effect as always. Little sister's still on strike, so this is why we get this picture up here, neither here nor there. My brother Vay got a BK. What's good, bro?
Oregon State University Public Radio. First of all, the Eagles are 4-0. You know what I'm saying? I'm just saying. You know, I'm just saying.
It's a beautiful time to be alive, bro. AJ Brown's another story, but that's for another day. You know what I mean? Hey, Bible quotes, I'm always for it when you're not kind of sneak dissing, but neither here nor there. We will celebrate. Rel, what's going on, bro?
What's good? Yeah, go Birds.
There you go. And we all got my brother Spence back in the building again. Spence, what's going on, bro?
So what's going on, Phil? Thanks for having me again.
Oh, man, always, man. Y'all know me. Let's jump right into it. This week's show is going to be about the dead zone. And the reason why I call it that is we're looking at the years from 1990 to 1993. The reason why I'm saying that is because it seems like when most people talk about the golden era of hip-hop, they say the 90s. But it seems to start in 94 with Nas's Illmatic. You know what I mean? And what really got me thinking about this was when we did the Ice Cube Salute show. And we were trying to figure out, like, okay, why do a lot of these young boys don't really know what Cube did like that? And it was because, if I'm not mistaken, Death Certificate was what, Vague? 91?
It was not. Yeah, 91, 92. Yeah.
90. Sometime it was during this spot. But by the time we got to 93, I think he was at the Predator. And that's kind of when Cube wasn't the same Cube. So it just had me really thinking like, damn, well, if all these young boys say that the 90s is the golden era, how come they don't talk about Cube like that? You know what I mean? And it's because he was popping during those years of that dead zone. So America's Most Wanted and Death Certificate both dropped between 90 and 93. You know what I mean? So that's why it's kind of like the dead zone era. So we're just going to be looking at three different things. Basically groups that debuted between 90 and 93. And it's crazy because when I was doing this, I kind of broke it down like these are the groups that debuted during that time period and survived. They went on to have some type of career. Then I also had groups that debuted during that time period that didn't survive. They came out during those years and they had just had one or two albums. And then I also want to look at groups that were from the 80s that didn't survive. So it's like, this is almost like, you know what, it's like, what's that thing, the Bermuda Triangle? It's always like, I remember seeing that as a kid and always wondering what's going on in the Bermuda Triangle where planes go down and all that. It seemed like 90 to 93 was like the Bermuda Triangle. Like a lot of groups from the 80s that was dope, they couldn't get past these years. They got caught up and their careers just was over. So that's what we're going to be chopping it up about today. We're going to be looking at those years because there were some dope albums that came out this year. There's no way that I'm saying that these years were whack, but it's just a lot of people did not survive these years. So we're going to be doing all of that. We're going to start with groups that I think that didn't survive. So I'm going to start with the UMCs. Their debut, One to Grow On, dropped in 91. You know, people liked it, Blue Cheese. You know, it was, I don't want to say it was cute. Like, I don't want to be disrespectful, but I mean, it was like fun hip hop. It was fun hip hop. You know what I mean? Videos was fun on some shit, but they couldn't survive. I mean, I think the second album was that Unleashed. Like, I don't even remember what their second album was. Does anybody remember their second album? Damn, nobody even heard their second album. You know what I mean? So that's the thing. Like, that's one of the groups that didn't survive. And I think a lot of this is going to come down to there was like this change in the hip hop and Vague. You talk about this a lot on the show, just like you were ready for something different. Like, you know what I mean? Like I feel like these years were kind of like, they were kind of gimmicky too, you know, and not in a disrespectful way, but it was kind of these gimmicky years. It's kind of like that seventh, eighth grade time frame where you trying to find yourself. I felt like hip hop was trying to find itself during these years, and it was kind of like stuff that we thought was dope in 91. By 93, it was like, oh, that shit corny, you know. And it's gonna be a lot of these people where it's like, oh, that shit was dope, but now that shit corny, or that shit was dope, or that shit's played out, whatever. So the UMCs is the first. So we're gonna just be looking at groups that didn't survive first. So Porsche, for you, who is a group from that time period from 90 to 93 that you did like, but they didn't survive past 93?
I mean, I did it differently than you, Kill.
That's cool. However you put it out, go with what you got.
So I did, well, the reason I wanted to not go first is because when I was doing this, I definitely tied everything back. I feel like everything ties back to Public Enemy in a way. And because for me, I had like X-Clan on my list, for example. So X-Clan, at one point, I remember hearing all about X-Clan, but then it really fizzled out pretty quickly. And when I kind of went back and did a little bit of a dive into X-Clan, I feel like a lot of the subject matter was almost like Public Enemy-ish, if that makes sense. And I feel like maybe, and so this might be a conversation to have more in the middle of the show rather than right at the beginning, but I just feel like the groups that I have all kind of lead back to Public Enemy and what they were doing and why I think they kind of fizzled out or didn't make it. So X-Clan for me is going to be my first one. And as you know, they're like, you know, very sort of socio-economic, same type of subject matter as that we were kind of accustomed to hearing, and very controversial, that kind of thing. So yeah, like again, I'll just stop there, but if we resume the conversation, then I'll chime in.
All right, no doubt. X-Clan was on mine too. And I mean, like you said, for me, it kind of just goes back to different things. So for X-Clan, for me, it was just the pro-black shit got played out. Nobody wanted to hear that anymore. You know, that's not what record labels were pushing. You know, again, to get even deeper into it, I mean, I don't feel like record labels, I mean, keep in mind, groups like Public Enemy had dudes like me from Philly in the hood reading Malcolm X Speaks. You know what I mean? Doing Black history. I mean, I ain't even really hear about school, but when I went to school in my Black history class, me and my teacher would be debating each other. You know what I mean? Because it really was giving young Black people in the hood knowledge of self. And it's like, nah, like I ain't care about no other class. Black history class, oh yeah, me and the teacher used to go back and forth.
I love that you said that, Kill, because X-Clan like dropped their first joint in 1990, and that's not too far away from Public Enemy with Yo Bum Rush the Show. Like if we're talking like time,
Bum Rush the Show was 87. Bum Rush the Show was 87. Not that
far. It's only three years.
But here's the thing, P. 3 years in hip hop is like dog years. Like you know what I mean? Like something that is cool. Literally, something that's cool in 87 could be played out by 89. Something that was cool in 90 could be played out by 92. So it looking back at it, it doesn't seem like that's a long time. But I feel like in hip hop, look at what was dope in 87, Kid and Play, Do This My Way. Nobody's even dancing no more in hip hop by 1990. You know what I mean? So that's the thing. It seems like it's only 3 years. But again, 3 years in hip hop, when you're like growing, it changes like The Wire. You see The Wire, it starts off, boom. All those kids in their 8th grade year, at the beginning, they just little kids. By the end of the year, one of these niggas is a murderer. The other, you know what I mean? So much can change just in 1 year. You know what I mean? So like you said, I agree that it's very close, but yeah, shit gets played out pretty quick. You know what I mean? At least back in those days it did. Mm-hmm. But that's why I think, Spence, what you got up for one of your first ones, bro?
Yeah, their first album was pretty good, but then the second
we didn't hear what you said. Who was the first one?
Leaders of the New School.
Yeah.
First album was pretty dope. When the second album came, they was already in turmoil already. So they was on the verge of breaking up. So you could tell the chemistry wasn't even there. And then once that happened, you know, they broke up basically on TV, on MTV Raps. And that was
for people out there, for people watching who didn't see that, just go to YouTube, put in Leaders of the New School, UMCV raps, and you can see the breakup in real time with Fab Five Freddy right there. You know what I mean? Which is crazy. You know what I mean? Now, Spence, why do you think leaders, I mean, outside of the breakup, do you think that they could have gotten past this dead zone years?
I don't think so, because we already seen who the star was, Buster. And then I think Dinkle D was actually a good MC. You could tell he was more of a writer, where you have Charlie Brown, who was more of that era of style, just trying to create his own niche and everything. But he really wasn't a writer, really wasn't an MC. And you know, as those times, cream rises to the top, and you get to see who is going to be the elite MCs or the MCs with subject matter. And
Right.
Other than that, you really didn't have that.
Yeah. And I think the other thing with leaders, to me, they always reminded me of like they were cut from the vein of like a Treacherous 3. You know what I mean? So, you know, kind of doing a little sing song, then we don't stop. Like they reminded me of that. And again, in 1990, that was cool. But by the time that second album, Time, came out, like, bro, I outside of What's Next, I think you could have $1 million on the table and I cannot name you another song off that album. I would just praise God, like, please God, let them. The cut is called Time, like the name of the album. Like, but outside of that, there was nothing else on that album, you know.
Yep. I think What's Next, was that the first single?
That was the single.
I can't remember.
Yep.
That was the first single, yeah. And then, like I said, as time went on, you start having more serious MCs with more serious subject matter too.
Yeah.
And that kind of was going to eliminate them too.
Yeah, no doubt. That's a good joint. Vague, what you got up first for your joint?
Brand Nubian.
Mm-hmm.
It's almost impossible to think, but when we think back to when they debuted as a classic, you know what I'm saying? 1990. I think that was 1990. Yeah,
90. Yep.
That album is a classic records. Obviously, All for One, and Slow Down, and just the whole album. And it just felt like something new. It kind of mirrored the times. You know what I'm saying? It had some style. And then they break up, and now you're trying to get used to Sadat X and Lord Jamal as a group, as Brand Nubian, and Pooh was by itself, and obviously Pooh was the star. But then Brand Nubian, that second album was not bad at all.
Nah.
You know what I'm saying? So it was kind of like, okay, but it's not the same group. Then they come back. So I think for them, it was more so when they had hip hop basically attention, they broke up.
Right.
So that kind of split the fan base. Some people, when it comes to stuff like that, like some people who like you as a group probably won't like you individually, or
right.
Two people over here. And then some people do. So I think in a lot of ways it was just they couldn't keep it going as a group, and by the time they got back together, I know for me, I did not care. Like I had moved on to so many other artists, new artists. We had so many classics. It was just a whole new wave that it was cool that they were back together. But when I listened to it, it just reminded me of how long it had been since I heard them together, and how much has happened in that time. So,
right. The funny thing is, I kind of had them like in the middle. Like I had Brand Nubians, but then I had an asterisk because I think they survived a little while longer through through that time period, because they were bigger than just 5%ers. You know what I mean? Because I got a group on here that I felt like they didn't move because everything was like God body. Everything was 5%. I felt like with Brand Nubians, they kind of gave you something else. Like, and Punk's Jump Up to Get Beat Down was such a big song, because there are people, Nick, who used to always be on the show, he would be like, yo, I got put on the Brand Nubians with that album, Within God We Trust. Like, I didn't get put on to them with One for All. So there were some people who came into hip hop already thinking, that there wasn't a breakup. Now, for us, we knew there was a breakup. But when Nick said that, I was like, oh, shit. So there are people who, like, thought Brand Nubian's second album was really, that's who Brand Nubians was. Mm. You know what I mean? And then the same with Pooh, like, they didn't just beat you in the head. Like, when you think about what goes around, this nigga ain't talking about no God body, no 5%, nothing. You know, it's Hill Figure, Jabot. So I felt like that's the thing that kind of at least they kept putting out albums. Now I always felt like those brand new Nubian albums after the second one, like it would always be like a single would be good, but I never felt like they released good albums after that and God We Trust album. You know what I mean? Right. Same with Puba. The 2000 album was good, but I'm like, yo, this nigga still singing like stylistic songs. Like, you know what I mean? Like, nobody wants to hear you talking about that's Grand Poo, you know, Spark the Elves. Like, you singing the stylistic songs. Like, that's done. So, but I felt like they had a little more leeway just because they weren't hard body. All we talk about is pro-black, 5% type stuff. Spence, you want to say something? Oh, my bad. Veg, you go. No, Veg, you go. Now I'll go to Spence.
Yeah, I was going to say, you make a good point because well, really I was bringing them up because of how they were introduced as a collective.
Right.
But even with that second album, I think that helped them survive because of songs like Punk's Jump Up to Get Beat Down, because by that time, that's what East Coast hip hop was
going. Right.
They didn't sound out of place. You know what I'm saying? So yeah.
Keep in mind, on that song, again, there's no 5%. There's no Wake Up. There's no Gotta Lie. It's like, yo, I'm about to fuck this nigga up type shit. So that's why I think they can keep going. Spence, what were you going to say, bro?
But what I do think is when they came out with the second album, they had the Punk Jump Up to Get Beat Down, and then they had the third album. I think it's Everything Is Everything. I think they leaned on the Punks Up to Get Beat Down throughout the whole album. But then I think when they got back together for the fourth album, I think they fell back into the place of the first album. Not saying it's good like the first album, but they all kind of played their part again, and they fell back into their place where they was talking about a little bit of everything with the fourth album.
Right. Nah, I feel you on that. Bro, who you got for your first joint, bro?
For mine, I mean, this group has a classic song, a smash, undeniable. But again, that formula wasn't gonna last long, and that's Poor Righteous Teachers.
That's one of mine. That's actually the group who I was talking about that stayed in the 5%, and that's why they didn't move, because everything was 5% type thing.
And you basically said it. Like that was almost set up to not have longevity because things change so fast, and after a while, nobody wanted to hear that. And they are the group that, like you said, they stayed on that. You know what I'm saying? They stayed, and they were not able to build on. I mean, Rock This Funky Joint is a
crazy
classic to
yes,
this
sir.
Day. And they weren't able to build on it, you know. But I just remember when that came out, like in Philly, that was crazy in Philly. You know what I'm saying? So, but they weren't. You know, I can't tell you the other albums, to be honest. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And, you know,
right.
The second one was good too. Pure Poverty.
Yeah, Pure Poverty was good with the Shaquilla joint on that. Like, it was good. I love Holy Intellect. I'm one of those very few people who like that's a 5-mic classic for me. But I understand most people would be like, I like the song, but I may not like the whole album. But like Styles Drop, Lessons Taught, there's so many bangers on that joint to me. But again, they stayed in that view, and kind of like the Porsche, what she was saying about the years is that you could record an album, but by the time it gets mixed and mastered, the shit you was talking about ain't cool no more. You know what I mean? So you could have been recording this 5% album when 5% stuff was dope, but by the time it gets, you know, you waiting in line. Like, I don't think people really understand now, because everybody can just upload their music to Bandcamp just as is. That back in the day, this shit was like waiting at the airport to take off. Like, you just on the runway waiting, and you got 5 other planes in front of you. That's how it was at a major label. Like, I gotta wait for all these other groups to go do their thing, and I'm in 5th place. And by the time my shit come out, now nobody don't want to hear nothing about Allah and righteousness no more. Like, damn, like my joint just got played out now. You know what I mean? I think that's the hard part. I think there would have definitely been more longevity if people could have just dropped albums when they wanted. You know what I mean? And I didn't have to wait. Like, yo, this Diggity shit is hot now. Yo, we dropping the album today versus, oh, this Diggity shit is hot now. We record the album, but it don't drop for another year and a half. And now by the time it's here, nobody wants to hear the Diggity shit no more. Next boy I got up, K Solo. You know what I mean? I know people I love his first album, Tell the World My Name. That's a personal favorite of mine. I don't think it's a classic album, but it's a personal favorite. I love that album to death. Tales from the Crack Side, just so many dope things. But the nigga superpower was spelling. Like, this is this nigga's superpower. And that's another thing about the 90s. I haven't, we'll talk about later, but this was a very free environment. You know what I mean? You were still able to have fun. People, I don't know if y'all remember the afros, kicking afrolistics. Like, you know what I mean? You can have these niggas in DJ Hurricane for the old heads who used to be the Beastie Boys DJ and the Run DMC's bodyguard. You know, he put on the afro wig and they had, like, yo, these niggas really had a whole album with afro wigs on. Like, you know what I mean? And it was cool. You know what I mean? I don't know if anybody really loved the album, but nobody was fronting on kicking afrolistics. This was the time in hip hop where you could do some shit like, yo, what you doing, bro? Yo, I'm a spell. You know what I mean? What's your style, Vague? Yo, nigga, I spell. Like, that's what I'm gonna do. You know, the BIRDS in the SKY. You know what I mean? Like, this is your superpower. So, but after a while, like, that shit got played out. You know what I mean? So, K Solo, and then I think too, the EPMD breakup didn't help because at least he was in the hit squad. You know what I mean? So it was like, even though this nigga superpowers the spell, you hear him on Headbanger, he still sounds good. Your mom's is in my business, it still sounds good. But I think the breakup also helped him too. So I had K Solo up. Porsche, who you got up next that didn't survive?
I'm gonna go with Arrested Development. And I'm saying that because
my favorite group.
Exactly.
If you follow me on Twitter, y'all know my Twitter folk know what I'm talking about with Arrested Development. Real quick story. What it was, somebody was saying something about De La Soul, something about I can't remember specifically, but it was something like De La Soul, Arrested Development is better than De La Soul. And I was like, in fucking hell, the fuck are y'all talking about? Arrested Development is better than De La Soul. And then somebody from Arrested Development's Twitter account posted a picture of them and De La on some old Joe, don't be trying to break the atoms or some shit. And I'm like, motherfucker, if you don't get the fuck off my timeline with this fuck boy shit, like, yo, you can post a picture of you with God for all I care. Nigga, y'all not better than De La Soul. That's all I said. I didn't say they was whack. I didn't say, I personally, I like, what's the shit? Everyday People. Other than that, it just wasn't for me. Never said they was whack. I just said they not better than De La Soul. And nobody except somebody in Arrested Development or somebody who's their student loans or their mortgage is being paid by Speech or Mr. Wendell or whoever the fuck else is in that group is gonna say that fucking Arrested Development is better than De La Soul. So fuck Arrested Development. But back to you, Porsche.
Oh, goddamn.
Sorry, this is exactly why I wanted to bring them up, is because I think Arrested Development had like a good, maybe I guess concept, so to speak, like they're conscious, you know, like they again dabbling in the same kind of subject matter, but then they just didn't last. And it's crazy to me that someone would say that they're better than De La Soul. Like, that's just insane, because of like obvious reasons. But yeah, I mean, like, there was a little blip in time where Arrested Development was maybe kind of talked about or even like noticed, but I
want to say maybe they won a Grammy. I want to say they won a Grammy.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like, there was a blip in time where they were kind of like there, but then it really fizzled out again. And their debut dropped in 92. So it's not like, you know what I mean? Like, it's right in that center kind of, that mid-range of that Bermuda Triangle you're talking about, Kills. So yeah, like Arrested Development, even though they're getting, you know, people are comparing them to De La Soul and even maybe Tribe in a way, but they just couldn't outlast. Like, they just couldn't. I know, Veg. I know. I'm not mad at you for that.
And this is the thing that we got to stop. People watching at home, we got to stop doing this. If I say De La Soul is better than Arrested Development, I don't need Arrested Development to send me a picture of them and Paz, right, to kind of say, hey, we're cool, don't try to throw a wedge in the game. I didn't say y'all should battle. I didn't say y'all should do a versus. I just stated a fucking fact. It's a fact that De La Soul is a better group than Arrested Development. And again, the only people who would debate that are either Speech, the 172 people who are in the group, or the fucking homeless dude, Mr. Window, may debate it. There is no other debate that De La Soul is better than Arrested Development. Like, let's stop that.
But Arrested Development isn't even better than their first album. That's the thing, is like you can't have this conversation when De La Soul has had the, you know, longevity that they've had. Arrested Development couldn't even kind of, you know, get past their own first kind of joint. It's
right,
crazy.
Anyway, and I think some people will even say, well, Kill, they just dropped the album and their new album ain't that bad. Again, if you follow me long enough on Twitter, you know it ain't that bad is not a compliment. And I always tell people, if you and a shorty link up and after y'all first hook up, you ask how was it, and she says it wasn't that bad, you didn't do a good job, my nigga. You did not do a good job. That's all. So what we not gonna do in the Lord's year 2025 is make it ain't that bad something positive, because it's not. Okay? If you ask your kid, how'd you do in college this semester? I didn't do that bad. That nigga didn't do fucking good. I can promise you that. We are not gonna make it ain't that bad now into something positive. So I'm glad the new album wasn't that bad, and y'all just keep enjoying it ain't that bad music. Spence, what you got up next, bro?
I actually had the X Clan. And X Clan, obviously the pro-black stuff got played out, but I think for me was the production for the next album sound like the first album, just familiar samples over and over again. No elevation on production. And then I just kind of tapped out after that.
Yeah, I think the other thing with X Clan too was that the red, yellow, black, and green, you sissies, like that was cool for that time. But this, you know, the boy just screaming sissies and the pink Cadillacs and the way niggas was dressing, that wasn't gonna move over into this new realm. And again, I want for people watching to understand too, like I think it's really dope that these groups stood on what they believed and that they didn't say, you know what, I'ma just go with whatever is cool. And, you know, because here's the thing with a lot of these groups still had a lot of albums out. Like I know Poor Righteous Teachers, I know of 3, but they may have had maybe 5 albums out. Wise Intelligence has dropped albums and all those things. So I appreciate the fact that they felt like, yo, I'm not gonna change who I am just because the label or because of this. So I think this is a great way, like on some old what's the boy? Y'all know my brain. Michael B. Jordan's character, Killmonger in Black Panther. What'd he say? Like, would I rather jump off the slave ship and die in the water or whatever, some shit like that. Like, I appreciate people being like, nah, I'd rather go out here. I'm going to go out the way I want to go out. So I think it's dope that these groups stood on like, yo, this is who we are. This is what we believe in. And if niggas stop rocking with us, they stop rocking with us. Versus it being, okay, I'm going to just jump on whatever fad is cool just to keep it moving. So yeah, I definitely agree with X Clan Bay. Who you got up next?
Up next, I got Organized Confusion. Almost sad to say, knowing they were dead nice and their level of skill could easily transfer over into that, you know, those other 90s, right? 94 or so. But I don't know what happened as far as the group or whatever. Obviously, we know Pharoah Monch was able to keep going, but Organized as a group with Prince Poe was really dope. You know what I'm saying? Like, really dope, but it just felt like all people remembered was Fudge Pudge. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And you know, obviously, those of us that kept listening, so we know many more records than that. But it felt like it was Fudge Pudge. What's the chicken joint?
Who Stole My Last Piece of Chicken?
Who Stole My Last Piece of Chicken? Right, like those are the type of records from the time that you can kind of get away with, which I liked because I was kind of like, yeah, you're right. He was like, even tastes better the Next Day Cold. I was like, yeah, you're right. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? But like you said, it was a fun time. And even though they kind of had some playful rhymes and the wordplay and all of that, they were kind of technically ahead of the curve than most of the rappers who were doing that at the time. Because they were rapping on a whole different level. I just don't I don't know why it didn't work, but you know, they didn't survive as a group. So
I think one of the things for me, at least, with Organized was always their production. Like, even off the second album, Stress, like the original, yo, I hated that shit. I was like, yo, I don't like this song at all. Then when the Large Professor remix came out, yo, top 10 remix ever, in my opinion. I was like, yo, this is what they need. It's like they're and it looked like the video, like just in the wintertime, everything just felt dark with Organized. You know what I mean? Like, and when you think about Monch, I don't ever see a group like, I don't ever see Organized getting a beat like Simon Says. Like, I don't ever see them getting that kind of beat. You know what I mean? Like, their beats all sounded like B-sides. Like, there's no like, oh shit, you heard that beat, or like even the way Stress comes in with Extra P coming in with the tap repeat with the like, there was some excitement in it. I felt like there was never whack about their beats, but there was never nothing super exciting about their beats either. But then when you get Monch on his own, like, now we're hearing like that dun 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 dun, like, yo, like, there's no Organized beat that's gonna turn out a party. I guarantee you, they throw Simon Says on at Homecoming next week, niggas is gonna be like, get the fuck up. Like, there's no Organized song that has that kind of energy. And maybe that was, you know how it always would be like, yo, we was in a group, but I wanted to try different things that maybe Poe didn't want to try. So maybe that's why Monch was able to survive. And I know Poe had a solo album out too, but I don't think a lot of people heard it, and it just didn't equate to the same success that Monch had with his solo career type thing. But I know for me, it was just always the beats, you know.
Yeah, you know, that makes a lot of sense, because I didn't think about that. Like, their beats always felt like they could have been a little bit better. It felt like it was like they were only there to highlight their verses and skills. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like, really, that was the reason why you were tuning in more than the beat. But to your point, you know, 3-year, 4-year span, you get into, you know, you got the Woo, you got, it's so much that's more exciting, that can match skill levels, that this appears to be boring now to some people. So.
Right. What you gonna say, Spence?
Yeah, on the first album, you definitely know it wasn't the beats, it was just the lyrics, because you hear like Hypnotical Gas, that beat is horrible. But you just hear the technique of them going back and forth.
Right. And I think the other thing with Organized too, and I learned this with their third album, Equinox, I was living in Atlanta, and I got it and I threw it on while I was cleaning the crib, and it hit me like, yo, you can't listen to Organized while you cleaning the crib. Like, you got to sit down and like be like, all right, cool, turn off everything, give 100% attention to this. And again, if the beats aren't jumping out at you, then it's kind of like, I know for me at least, you know, I'm always going to be the beat first for most of the time. And again, just what Pharoah was able to do, when you think about some of those beats on, you know, Internal Affairs or Desire, you know, now you getting with Alchemist now. You know what I mean? So the beats just made it better. So I think that may have been a thing with Organized too. Rel, what you got up next, bro?
All right. So 1992, I'm like 10 years old. So I got Chiali. And Chiali came out, and here's the thing, he was backed by heavy hitters, like,
yeah,
you know,
Native Tongues,
and they're all over that his first album, you know what I'm saying? And then we know what happened with him later on, but I feel like it would have been interesting to see how do you evolve an artist like that, like a kid artist, you feel what I'm saying? That
right.
Evolve him as he gets older, which we really didn't get to see because of other stuff, you know what I'm saying? But being backed by the Native Tongues, you know, you're gonna get, I mean, look at good production, great features, you know what I'm saying? It's just, you know, circumstances happen, but I would have really wanted to see, because it's hard to do when a kid artist, and then when they get older, that the luster goes away of them being, you know what I'm saying? Now you're an adult. Yeah. Like, what type of music are you gonna make? You know what I'm saying? The novelty of being a kid is gone. So I was wondering what would have happened with him. It would have been difficult. I think he probably would have. It's 50-50 with me. Like, he probably would have like fizzled out anyway. You know what I'm saying? But I don't know.
Right. I think the thing with Chi too is that, again, this was like we said earlier, it's a silly time in hip hop. You know what I mean? It's not like the rhymes was like, oh, this nigga's nice. You know what I mean? If anything, it was always the girls look so good. Like, that's what caught me. You know what I mean? I love the Funky Road Runner and Funky Lemonade and Road Runner, the Road Runner remix. And I mean, like you said, funny Chi Ali story. I'm in a barbershop and this nigga walk in. I'm like, yo, that shit look like Chi Ali. Like, yo, motherfucker, this Chi Ali. Nigga, why are you in Waldorf, Maryland? Like, what are you doing? He like, I'll be out here. I'm like, nigga, in Waldorf, Maryland? You know what I mean? But I copped this book. And definitely, if y'all have it, it's a channel called All Black. His documentary is on there. Very dope documentary, because I always wondered, how did this little kid get down with the native tongues like that? So he goes into all that. He goes into what happened with the shooting and going on a run. So very dope documentary. So it's on All Black. Check it out. And I think on his website you could buy the book too. So that's also up there too. Two of the groups I got, because I want to get the people who kind of survived. I got Black Sheep. First album to me, 5 Mic Classic. The remixes was crazy. You got the Choices Yours remix, the Similac Child remix, which I love. Just an incredible first album. Yeah, like Honey, like so many dope joints. But then that second album, I really honestly think I was the only person who liked Without a Doubt. That was the first single. Like, probably because it sampled the Osley Brothers. I don't know any other human being. We were just talking about, what album we talking about? Leaders. I can't name you another song off that second Black Sheep album at all. Not if you paid me to. I have no idea. Don't know none of them. Nobody really liked Without a Doubt. The video wasn't crazy. And then Mr. Long wanted to start rapping. And I don't think that really helped, because Drez had the flow. He kind of had his own style. He had a dope voice. And here comes Long. And it's like, nah, nigga, like, just DJ, my nigga. Like, just play your part. You know what I mean? So I got them. And then the second ones, I got the Fushnickers. You know what I mean? When Ring the Alarm first came out, I liked it. I was like, why are these niggas in the goddamn Chinese takeout box flying in space? But I liked the style. It was kind of DOS, and Shit Food was dope. La Smooth was the shit. And I even have an asterisk next to the Fushnickers, because I didn't realize how many people who are a lot younger than us. And Rel, you said, how old were you in 92? 8? 10. So I'm 8 years older than you. So did you like this Fushnickers second album when Shaq Fu was with them? Like, what's up, Doc?
What, can we rock?
But what I realized is a lot of people who are younger than me really like that album, because I said something like the Fushnickers, they only had one album, and mad niggas got at me like, nah, What's Up, Doc was dope as shit with Shaq Fu, and I was like, word? But again, I'm having to realize I'm 18, 19, and I'm like, this, but maybe for somebody who's 10, like that shit could have been dope. Bro, so that's why I kind of had an asterisk by them.
Yeah, for a kid, it was cool because it was Shaq. Like for a little kid, they were like, it was cool. But yeah, I get what you're saying. Like for someone of age, it's like, not
right.
For a little kid, Shaq was the biggest thing going at the time. You know what I'm saying? So it was fun,
right?
But yeah.
Yeah, so I had them, and then one more just throw out there, D Nice. You know what I mean? They call me D Nice. That was a banger. You throw that on a house party, niggas like, my name is D Nice, although I hate to admit it, taking out you suckers and you don't know how I did. Like, that was the shit. He was down with BDP, so you kind of already knew him from Self-Destruction and all that stuff. And then he tried to flip the style with his second album with To the Rescue, had Tretch writing for him, I forgot the name of that joint. What was the name of the first single? But it had Tretch written all over it. It had the piano. KG was doing the production. And he just tried, but it just, it didn't stick, in my opinion. So, P, who else you got left for the people who didn't survive?
I don't know if this is classified as didn't survive, but I'm going to go with Compton's Most Wanted. And the reason I say that is because I think that like there is a pocket of fans that still kind of talk about them and love them, and and they are very dope. But I just don't think they had as much, I don't know what, to carry them through like the rest of like the West Coast groups did, like NWA, even non-groups. I think they kind of got lost in the mix there, and I don't think they were able to just sort of pass over and kind of keep going. Although their third album is said to be better than all of them, so yeah.
Now let me ask a question. 8 was in Compton's Most Wanted, right?
Yeah, correct.
When did he go solo?
Well, I can tell you when it started. The We Come Strapped album, which is if you look at it, it's MC8 and Compton's Most Wanted. We Come Strapped.
Okay.
And then you had
and it started with the Supremes, and then it went to Diana Ross and the Supremes.
Yeah,
so it started with
right.
Compton's Most Wanted, then it eventually got to MC8 and Compton's Most Wanted.
And to me, We Come Strapped is their best album. And then you had Straight Up Menace, which he did on the soundtrack, and it started to be like, okay, 8 can be by itself, Compton's Most Wanted, and Portia's right. They were dope, but they were in that time when it was West Coast everything, and they just kind of got overlooked a little bit in comparison to the NWAs and stuff like that. They were similar, but they didn't get the
and they were also like at one point, I think, trying to like, and of course I'm going to be corrected if I'm wrong, but I think at one point they were trying to like create sort of like diss tracks and like feuds that really weren't there to kind of, pit people against each other and themselves. Like it was just really odd. I don't know. And I think that kind of played a part in why they didn't make as much of a kind of landing as others did, because everyone else was kind of doing their own thing in their own lane. And then here comes Compton's Most Wanted, and they're dope, but then they're also trying to do this simultaneously. So it was just really weird.
Yeah. And then maybe just be like Bro said. Oh, you got it, babe.
Oh, I was just gonna say, I think it's a little bit different than that. I think it's similar to Leaders of the New School, where you remember them as a group, but you remember Busta, and that's what it was.
Oh, you're right.
In the Hood, songs like that. I was like laser focused on MC8, and I didn't even realize it was a group. I thought he was Compton's Most Wanted until you're like, who's this other nigga rapping? Then you're like, oh, it's a group. So it kind of once he went solo, it felt like he almost didn't miss a beat, because I always thought those were MC8 records anyway, solo records.
Right.
But yeah, you're right. Like there was a lot of Jerry curls and hats, but they Compton's Most Wanted and DJ Quick are probably the first two to actually like gangbang on fucking records. I don't even mean the disc records. I mean just talking of repping the gangs and shit.
It was banging for it. Yeah. And it's crazy. Vegas, right? 8 stood out. Like you didn't have to like it was like they didn't even have to try to do it. Like you could watch and you automatically were drawn to MC8. And then it was just like a separation. And then it's like 8 can be by itself. You don't even need, you know what I'm saying? Like when Large Pro said, fuck them 2 DJs. You know what I'm saying? It was like,
right.
It was 8. And, he went on to have a good career, you know what I'm saying? But the group, no.
Who were the other niggas in the group?
Exactly.
Yeah.
The Chill. And then there was DJ. There's another rapper, The Chill, and then there's 2 DJs.
Chill.
Yeah.
2 DJs?
Yeah. DJs.
Fuck we need 2 DJs for?
Yeah.
I never understood the 2 DJs. I'm talking about from MC Lyte. She used to have 2 DJs, and I never got that from Main Source. I mean, I get it, they were brothers, but it's like we don't need 2 DJs. That's just overkill on this. Spence, who you got left for your who didn't make it?
KMD, obviously, the first album, Mr. Hood, and then they went through the whole controversy trying to release the second album because of the cover, and it obviously didn't come out. Then Zev Love X wound up losing his brother, then he just disappeared and kind of reinvented himself.
Right. That's it. And I think with KMD, like again, man, They would so many people because I won't say they were on. How would y'all describe KMD? Because I wouldn't say they're not on their 5%er type thing like that.
They were more like Tribe. Like it was that vibe, you know. You had a nose ring, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like all of that. It was more the Afrocentric side of things, not militant. You know what I'm saying?
Right. I almost feel like KMD's biggest hit is really the Gas Face. Like I feel like more people know about Zub Love X from the Gas Face than almost from like, because what was it, Peach Fuzz? I mean, that was cool. You know what I mean? But I feel like Zeb Love X is like, yeah, like on the Gas Face. Like that was the thing. And I think Mr. Hood was a good album, but it wasn't, it came in third place to those Tribe leaders out of that crew, the Brand Nubians. It was coming in last place. You know what I mean? So I think that's a piece too. Vay, who you got left on who didn't survive?
Lords of the Underground. That first album, nothing but bangers. The singles were bangers. It was like the video was hot. Like I remember I couldn't wait to see the Chief Rocker video. And I'm like, man, it's ill because it was kind of like halfway.
Chief Rocker was so hard.
It was just a dope ass joint. So when they dropped their second album, I didn't even care what the source gave it. I was just like, yo, I'm gonna get it. And that shit was trash. Like it was almost as if you weren't listening to the same group. That's how
now tell me what changed, because I didn't even bother to listen. I didn't even bother to listen to the second album. So different production, the rhymes got whack, or
it was a lot of the same, right? Where not the same music, but a lot of the same of what we said. The music was fine, but it was better on the first album.
The first album, okay.
Yeah, and the lack of those like ill beats pointed out some of those things we were saying about the styles. You know what I'm saying? Because I thought it was ill before, like, oh, they both kind of got high-pitched voices and that shit sound ill. On the second album, I was just like, man, shut the fuck up. I don't want to hear this. What are y'all doing, man? Like, it just wasn't good. And let me just say this, because I think this is another thread within that time of mostly East Coast records that kind of got played out as far as the artists and styles. But I just feel like I always say, man, the West Coast was like talking about things that were happening in their neighborhood. And for me, that was more attractive because, you know, we all were living where we were living. And it felt like, to your point, when you got to like 94-ish and on, the East Coast was doing the same thing, like Project Hallways, Tim's, and I was like, yeah, that's what we live in. Oh, that zippity beat, like, get the fuck out of here. That was cool. They had that time. We had our time with that, but stop. But look, I lost my point a little bit. But like to your point with the UMCs, the thread with groups like that were doing those things, they would come back with another album like We Tough. We knocked
that was the album. It was called Unleashed. That was the second UMC's album. And it was like you said, it was a 180-degree change from the Blue Cheese.
Right. It was almost as if because De La, like I said in that book, and it's true, when you listen to the music, De La kind of did the same thing, but their music was dope. You know what I'm saying? So when they were like, nah, we'll whoop your ass, it didn't matter because this shit sound hot. But everybody else with Blue Cheese and what they looked like previously, and now they talking about, you know, now we from the streets, is like, okay, wow, that's cool.
Yeah. It's almost like it's like we don't believe you. You need more people, nigga. You were just fucking singing to a blue bird in your video, in the fucking video. Now you just killed somebody in the projects. Like, nah, nigga, go to your blue bird. Bro, who you got up left on your didn't survive list?
So I might as well stay on the same track that I was on. I'm a bunch of people together in one genre. Kid hip hop groups. Crisscross, the Youngsters, Illegal, another Bad Patient. All of them did not survive. That kid hip hop era. And I'm telling you, Illegal was dope to me. You know what I'm saying? And you know, Jamal kind of, but they was dope. When
this one right there.
There you go. Like
Ooh, we gets busy, had a gut, man. Listen,
Yeah, they was dope, and you know, the youngsters were from Philly. They were kind of like chameleons a little bit about how they changed their styles to fit. You know what I'm saying? They came out sounding one way, then they sounded like you could tell Tretch was involved on Cruise Pop, and then, you know what I'm saying? But I fucked with them, but that novelty of child hip hop kind of just, dwindled after, you know.
And I think it's like kind of like the silliness, but then I also think that this was the innocence of hip hop. Like, I remember when ABC came out with The Playground. Like, we was like, oh, that's dope. Like, look at little kids at the playground. Like, nobody was like, man, fuck these little kids. Why these little kids? Or Aisha. Like, nobody was like that was cooler. This is a little something for the youngsters. Like you said, like it was all good. But this goes to the people on Twitter who be talking about Crisscross was that shit. My nigga, nobody was, we weren't dissing ABC and Aisha, but nobody was banging that shit in their car. My nigga, like if any of my niggas came to pick me up playing The Playground, nigga, come on, turn that shit off. Nobody was banging this. A little something for the youngsters. Nobody was banging that shit. So we didn't diss this shit, but it was like, oh, okay, keep that. It was the kids at Thanksgiving dinner. Keep that shit over there at the kiddie table. And that's where that shit stayed. Okay, so P, I know you gotta get ready to dip, shorty. Did you have anything else left that you really wanted to kick it?
No, I don't have anything else left, and I know you guys are gonna mention all the faves. So I'm excited to listen to this later when you post it. And it was very dope to see all of you.
All right, you know what next week's show is, so get ready. Veg, you about to say something?
Yeah, what year did Illegal's album drop?
Oh god, let's see. All right, P, I'll check you next week, babe.
For sure. Bye, guys.
All right. Oh, Veg, you got me out here being an old man. I got to pull out the magnifying glass on this damn CD now. Let's see. This Illegal dropped 1993 Rowdy Records.
Okay, because I wanted to, 93. So I wanted to prove a point to somebody who I argued with for years. But at the time, I didn't have it on me. I got it on me today, right? So this is the Illegal cassette I bought back then. And I remember my homie at Morgan was like, yo, nobody ever did a purple tape since Raekwon. And I was like, nigga, are you a color tape? Illegal had a red tape in 93. Mm-hmm. So Redman had one also.
Did Redman had one? Yeah, I remember Redman had one.
But it was kind of like, oh, but it's different because, it's a purple tape. Nobody had a colored tape. And I was like, what? No, it's not. Also for Pharrell.
Let's go. There you go. Oh, you got some classics over there. That's what's up.
Oh yeah, they got a lot of heat over there, man. All right, so a couple of groups that I did have that survived. The first group I had was Tribe. People's Instinctives dropped in 90. The reason why I personally think they survived is a combination of things. Number one, for me, they changed their style. All that dressing like that, I wasn't with that. You know what I mean? Making them songs, I left my Wild and El Segundo. Nigga, I'm not doing that. Like you said, Vay, who ate the last piece of chicken and hypnotical gases and fluxing through your body. Nigga, I don't want to hear none of that shit, man. You know what I mean? So, one, they changed their styles. And the other thing I think that was always about Tribe was they were peaceful, but they had dope, hard beats. Like, when you listen to Can I Kick It, that beat is hard. When you listen to Footprints, that beat is hard. So, even though they were kind of like peace, the peace dudes, and you dressed the way they dressed, they beats was hard. So it's like it to me at least spoke to me. And then when Low End dropped, it was like, oh, okay, and I see the video for Check the Rhyme, and I see these niggas dressing normal. I'm like, okay. Like I always tell people, I like Tribe, but I became a fan on Low End. Cause I'm like, oh, okay, now these dudes is dressing normal. Fife got the jersey on, Tip got the fitting on, like, okay, they regular dudes now. So I felt like the reason why they were able to survive is a mixture of those two things. I don't know. And tell me what y'all think. Do you think, I guess it really comes down to the music. Because if they kept dressing that boho shit, that low end, even with low end, being what low end is. But I remember watching Bugging Out being like, yo, I gotta get a championship. I gotta get a champion sweatshirt like Phife got on. Like they be, it was kind of like, oh, I like the fit that Phife got on. I gotta get that. Do they move forward if they keep dressing in that? And I'm not trying to be disrespectful for anybody who dressed like that. It just wasn't my steez. Like, bro, what do you think? You think they could have been successful if they still kept dressing like that?
I don't know, but the change in dress up their relatability to everybody, bro. Like when I seen the Seton Hall jersey, the Jordan starter, all that was relatable to. I couldn't relate to that else what they had on, and you know what I'm saying. And the else
even in Bonita, I'm like, yo, what are y'all niggas? What are y'all rocking? Y'all at the party slow dancing, looking like what?
And that's a
dope so song. I'm with you.
And that's a dope song, but I think some people wouldn't have given them the proper chance just off of the way they looked if they didn't change. You know what I'm saying? Because I started to see the change in the dress, and then the sports stuff, the jerseys, the jackets, and all that. That's what we was
rocking
at the time, and some of the stuff we wanted, like we asking our mom to get us from the store. You know what I'm saying? So the relatability up when they change like that. So I don't know if I think some people, even if the music was dope, I think some people wouldn't even have gave it a chance. It might have caught on later because they just couldn't relate to what those dudes was wearing, and that image at the time, you know what I'm saying, as it evolved.
I don't think it would have popped because, again, it was like, I see Check the Rhyme, and it's almost like, yo, who are these niggas? Like, you know what I mean? Now Phife is rapping, you know what I mean? They in Queens, they on the Cleaners, they in the hood. Like, as dope as Check the Rhyme is, I don't know if it's the same thing, if it's the same kind of video before I left my Wild and El Segundo. And they're still dressing like that. You know what I mean? Vay, what do you think? You think if they were still dressing and making videos like when you look at, like you said, Bugging Out or the Jazz, like they're in the streets, they got the hoodies on and everything like that. Do you think Vay, same album, but they're still dressing and doing these weirdo videos like that? Do you think Low End still gets the same love it gets now?
I don't think so. I think Rel said it. You know, we could relate to them. They were more like what we were. Like I think they tried to. I think they dressed that way to come across like a tribe. You know what I'm saying? But you know, when you hear them rap, especially on Low End, they were no different from us. So it was like, well, you're a tribe. You should just be a tribe in spirit. But this dude loves sports. You know what I'm saying? Dressed the way he dressed, like they dressed different. You could tell it was their personalities. So it kind of it made sense then. And like you said, the music was what it was at that time. I'm pretty sure there was a couple of, like, I don't even know what you call them shits, like beads wearing ass niggas from that time that was offended, like, yo, why you taking that off? Like, nah, man, we don't want to see that shit. You know, you wear that shit. But
I would have loved to hear the meeting. I would have loved to be in a fly on the wall when Phife was like, yo, man, I ain't wearing that shit next time. You know, like how did this message get conveyed to the crew? Like, yo, Ali, we not doing that shit. Was that a personal thing? Was the label like, yo, you know what I mean? Like, I would just love to have heard that conversation.
Didn't they take it off by the time of the Can I Kick It video? Because I swear Phife had some regular shit on a basketball court or some shit.
Yeah, I think that the Can I Kick It Spirit remix with the Baby Huey drums to me was like the lead in of what was coming with Low End.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because I always liked Can I Kick It, the original, but when I heard the Baby Huey drums, I was like, yo, this joint kind of crazy. You know what I mean? Spence, what were you gonna say?
Yeah, I think just because they was in a native tongue and, you know, they're the little ones coming up and they're around all these ones that's dressed in a certain way, they probably felt like they had to fit in at first. And then eventually they felt like they got their own voice and was like, you know what? I got to separate myself from, because they looked up to Daylight. Like Daylight was like everything to them. And then they kind of found their own niche and kind of moved forward.
Right. Yeah. That's a good point. Spence, did you have any groups that survived? Did you break anything down like that?
Well, I want to ask you, when you say survive, like what years do you consider surviving for you? Like outside of
for me, it was kind of like the way I looked at Survivors was you debuted during these from 90 to 93, and you were able to go on to have at least 3 albums of success. You know what I mean?
like
Or albums that people cared about. You know how we're like, I think PRT may have had, like, all, between the 4 of us, we probably just be throwing numbers out at how many albums PRT got. We all know how many albums Tribe got. We all know how many albums Daylight got. So that's kind of how it was like, you were able to get past 93 and have a career and be taken seriously, like whereas Cube didn't. I mean, I know Cube debuted in 88, but if we're looking at his solo singles, he really didn't survive past 94, because by the time you get to 94, not too many people were loving that Predator album like that. So that's kind of how I was looking at surviving. You got past 94, you got past 93 and still was able to make music and people cared about you.
Well, I'm actually I got Naughty by Nature. God, I think this subject right here, when you think about it, this fits Naughty by Nature to a T. And when they came out in 91, I know they like was a new style, and then they kind of changed their name and reinvented themselves or whatever. But even when they came out, when Snoop and them was coming out, they were selling records too. I just think the fact that they're from Jersey, not from New York, kind of don't get the same type of love. They was selling like millions singles, millions in albums. They was able to do what kind of Biggie did later, and even what Heavy D did earlier with the crossover songs, but still had the hard songs. Rhyming with Freddie Fox, rhyming him and Heavy D, Church of Heavy D going back and forth. And they was able to kind of, had the anthems that we all love. Even had the commercial songs that we didn't think was corny. That's a hard thing to do. To drop a commercial song, everybody singing it, and we don't shun it as like, this joint kind of corny. They was able to kind of, walk a fine line between that.
Yeah. Now, I had Naughty down on my list too, based off of that. And I kind of said that they just had a knack for making hard songs, but that fit in for the radio. You know what I mean? Like when you listen to Ghetto Bastard, nigga, Tretch is spitting, that beat is hard as hell, but everything's gonna be all right. That shit was getting played everywhere. Hip Hop Hooray, everybody loved it. Hard ass drums, bars, like, they're going in. So I don't know how they just had this knack to make hard songs that also got radio play. Like you said, it's a very hard thing to do. And just Naughty was able to do it. Even when, now probably by, I forgot, maybe it's Poverty's Paradise. I can't remember which one. By the time we got to the craziest, I was like, okay, I'm kind of getting tired of, New York niggas are the craziest, West Coast niggas are the craziest. Like, it was like the Muppet Babies. It was like a Muppet dance or something. But it was like, all right. But then they hit you with Feel Me Flow. And I was like, yo, this shit hard. Like, Feel Me Flow come out. And it's like, I'm not mad at this. So they just had a knack to do that. So yeah, I agree with you 100% on Naughty too. That's a dope pick. Veg, do you have anybody that you could think of that got through that debuted during that time that actually kept going after 93?
Redman. 1992. It's funny because Redman's style fit the East Coast style back then, but somehow it felt upgraded. So when the Biggies and the Nas and all of them dropped, Redman was even better at what he did. And I just think he had personality, he had skill, he could make hardcore records, right? He's relatable, and even though he could be playful with his rhymes, I don't remember especially his early videos being that playful. Maybe later on,
right? Right. No, they was dead ass serious.
It was winter all the way around in Newark when you watch his fucking videos, like. So I think a lot of it was he kind of fit the times. And just a little inside story. I remember when what was out? I think Halftime was out by Nas, and what's the joint with MC Search that had Nas on it?
Back to the Grill,
right? So this is his early Nas. It was before Illmatic out, and I remember every time he had a video, he'd bring it by my aunt's crib, and she would cook, and we would watch the video a million times and shit. And I remember niggas talking like, yo, you met Redman yet? And to me, that was kind of, I didn't even think about shit like that because I'm like, oh shit. Like, Redman must be big to everybody because I know he was a favorite, instant favorite for me. But to me at the time, it kind of resonated that, like, damn, Redman is really dope because everybody like him. And I think that was one of the reasons why he was able to, like, just go through time, through those different eras and survive. So,
yeah, I have Red on my list too, and I think for me, and I'm gonna talk about this when we look at the years, like he could really fucking rhyme. Like that's the other thing with a lot of these people, and again, I'm not trying to be disrespectful to the UMCs and K Solo and D Nice and Drez and Red could really rap. You know what I mean? Like, you know what I mean? He was always himself. He never got typecasted in a place of, oh, this nigga killed 50 niggas. I'm getting tired. He just smoked weed. He smoked weed. He had bars, could do funny shit. I remember on Can't Wait off the second album when he was like doing that whole Bruce Lee on a Fuji in a movie. Like, I'll hit you with the 1, not the 2, 3. Like, you know what I mean? Like, so that was the other part about it is like, he was one of those people. And I'm going to talk about 91 and 92. I call those the alley-oop years. But we're going to talk about that a little bit later. But Red's a dope pick too. Bro, you got anybody who survived?
Mobb Deep. Mobb Deep. And
yep.
I forgot that dropped. Yep.
Hell dropped. And,
What year was that? 91?
Hold on.
Let me look it up. No, I got you got to keep talking.
Yeah, I remember the videos on what was it, Peer Pressure, I think, and then Hit It From the Back, where the same
93.
Yeah, and then
93.
They, that album. A lot of people forget that's their first album. People think Infamous is, and it's not. That is their first album, and it didn't hit. But then there was a change, and
yeah.
I remember first hearing Infamous, and I was like, "Yo, what happened?" Like,
I remember the first time I heard Shook Ones, not the one that we all love, the original Shook Ones, and I was like, "Yo, this shit hard." I was like, "Yo, this is them niggas." Like, it's something about reinventing yourself. I could say that. You know what I'm saying? There's something about that. So my bad, bro. You keep going.
Nah, I felt the same way. I was like, "Yo, what?" My homeboy had it on tape, and he let me. I was like, "This is the same." And then Infamous comes out, and then they're one of the legendary groups. But you couldn't have told me that when Juvenile Hell came out. You know what I'm saying? But they were able to survive and kind of reinvented themselves.
Yeah, man. I'll never forget, man. And this is a lost art. And I got too many sneakers to pull out of my chair, but I used to collect hip hop stickers. That was like one of my favorite things of promotions back in the day. And I'll never forget they had, they had this long black sticker and it was kind of like that. And it had Shook and then it had like a noun and it was like the definition of Shook Ones. And at the bottom was like Mobb Deep's, new single. It was like, oh, this shit crazy, man. You know what I mean? And totally off topic, I love that shit, Taj Mahal, man. I literally dropped Nay off. Then we went to go see No Worries this week. If you like, go see No Worries. Amazing show, great show. If they come to your city, go see No Worries. Anderson .Paak and Knowledge. I mean, it was such a dope show because it was almost, it reminded me of an old school 80s show because it was like Anderson .Paak talking. And he was like, Knowledge, get busy. And Knowledge just DJing, And I was like, damn, this crazy that an R&B fucking group. I guess they're R&B. I don't know. What would you categorize No Worries as? Maybe no category. It just was bugged because I'm looking at like this Anderson .Paak. They doing some shit that hip hop niggas don't even do. Like literally Anderson .Paak left the stage for like 15 minutes and just let fucking Knowledge just DJ. You know what I mean? Not even on some tricks, but if you know Knowledge, check out his Bandcamp. He does a lot of remixes and blends, and so it was like a Ron G tape for me. Dope show. But I dropped off at college, and I still got a 40-minute ride home. I listened to Taj Mahal on repeat all the way home. Like I love that, man. And so and y'all know me, I'll be the first to admit I'm wrong. I love being wrong. So I love the fact that I've heard 2 Mobb Deep songs with old P verses, and they both sound crazy. So, you know, I'm hoping. What's up?
I'll say this. What was the first single? Mobb Deep Against the World, right? So I heard that. I heard that as a snippet at like one of their shows that Havoc played or whatever, right? So I was like, that's crazy. And then the song comes out. Taj Mahal, Alchemist played that when he was DJing some kind. He played the snippet, and I remember I could barely hear it, but I was like, this shit sound kind of crazy. There's another one because I've only heard 3 snippets. The joint with Big Noid, and I was like, man, just bring P on from the back because the nigga gotta be here because this shit sounded like y'all was all together. Like, it's crazy.
Yeah, bro. Like, whatever. If this album turns out to be good, they need to do a documentary on how to do these dead rapper albums because obviously they got the formula for it because that Taj Mahal joint is crazy. Next up, I got Cypress Hill because they dropped in 91, went on to have a long career, but somehow, some way, they transcended the pop crowds, you know, and maybe not pop, maybe I'm using the wrong word, but they went into a genre that wasn't just hip hop anymore. You know, they started doing those crazy fucking 50,000 outside seat arenas. Cause I don't know too many hip hop heads that was still banging Cypress Hill after Black Sunday. You know what I mean? But if you haven't seen a documentary, I think it's on Showtime. Amazing documentary. Watch it. And I don't know how. I think it was just like after Insane in the Membrane and all of that, like the crowd surfed and like white folk just took a liking to them and they kind of blended into that crowd. I don't know what it is, but it wasn't hip hop because we wasn't playing that shit on Strictly Hip Hop. I wasn't hearing that shit on no mixtapes, no SNS, no Craig G mixtapes, no, they weren't getting no burn, but they've gone on to have an illustrious career like that. So definitely Cypress. Spence, you got anybody else on that you feel like survived?
Yeah, I'm gonna actually take you down south there. Like, you know, I was in the service from like 88 to 96. So I was around a lot of people from the South, from the West Coast and Midwest. And before everybody been talking about Outkast, they always talked about MJG and 8-Ball. And they like, these are the people that Outkast looked up to. And right. I know they've dropped like the first couple songs in like 91. Then they came out with an album in 93. Then they wound up signing with Puff, I think in like 04, 05, I can't remember. But they had a solo career with 8-Ball, did a solo album called Lost, which actually went like double platinum. Like, so they was like repping the South, and they're the type of group that they didn't need the East Coast or the West Coast. They can sell gold or platinum just by being in the South and flourish without even getting airplay from either place.
And
which is crazy.
Slept on lyrically because you can think you know what their music is going to sound like until you listen. You're like, oh, they got bars. Hold up, they rapping like for real.
They got bars, stories.
Right.
They got this one joint called Hand by the Devil. Crazy. Crazy jump.
Yeah. Nah.
Coming out hard, crazy.
Thank you for mentioning that before I get too many comments about we care about is the East Coast. So thank you for mentioning that, Spence. You know, keeping the comments, you know, honest or whatever. Vague, Grell, y'all got any more people who survived?
I got a bunch because I just was trying to be prepared. But I'm gonna go with Master Ace. In the Juice Crew was cool to most people, you know, but obviously we was more enamored by the G Raps and the Kanes, and
even the Craig G's,
like everybody above him. But slowly but surely, Master Ace just hung in there. Master IC, like he just built this legend of himself where he has this long, extensive catalog to this day, and I, you know, obviously he survived to be able to make this amount of music. But I think the more people go back and do the knowledge on his career and like where he started as far as popularity at a time where he could have easily disappeared, it's kind of remarkable. But I think it's what he did in that Master INC kind of phase that resonated with that scene, you know, where everybody always remember Illmatic, Black Moon, and all that. Like, he was able to get in that pocket and make dope ass music. So,
and it's funny you name that, because I remember a lot of East Coast boys didn't like that when he kind of went to the West Coast with that car shit. You know what I mean? I know a lot of people kind of got turned off by that. But then I also think the thing with Ace, and that we kind of realized a couple of episodes, not a couple of episodes, but some on the show, is that for those people, because we were talking about like, yo, why is it that the people who we don't think would last the longest in these crews last the longest? So when you think about Freeway, he's the one from State Prop that's still around. Now, when State Prop came out, you would have said Beans, you would have said Young Chris, you may even said Ochino, you would have said Petey, but it's Free. You know, same thing with the Woo. You would have said Gray, you would have said, but it was Ghost. Same thing with Duck Down. You would have said all these people, but it ended up being Ruck. And I feel like those people just don't have no pressure on them. You know, like the pressure that was on Meth is not on Ghost. The pressure that's on Buck or whoever is not on Ruck. You know, the pressure of Beans being the next Jay-Z is not on Free. You know, and the pressure of being like the next Kane, or, you know, Kane and G-Rap, these are the rap guys. Like, it's almost like Ace ain't have no pressure. Like, I could just be me. And if I just keep making dope music, then I can just survive. You know what I mean? So I think Ace kind of falls into that place. Like, there was really just no pressure on him, because I don't think, to this day, I know a lot of people, I think if I'm not mistaken, Ev never heard Take a Look Around. I know a lot of diehard hip hop heads who never even listened to Ace's first album. You know what I mean? Vague, and you from Brooklyn. You know what I mean? But it was like, so I think with that, there's just no fucking pressure. So it's kind of just like, and I think that's what Free did. Free just kept making dope music. He never tried to cross over. He never really tried to do what Spence, you think he crossed over or he tried to?
No. I think Freeway is the work ethic. Freeway, he'll do something with somebody from the West Coast. He'll do something with Brother Ali. He'll do something underground. Like Freeway does shows everywhere. He'll do a show in my house if I pay him. Like that boy.
Nah, that ass.
Free. He a workaholic, man.
I think
right.
that applies to everybody you named, right? Like everybody you
like
named,
Rock.
Work ethic. Yeah.
Because it's kind of like I gotta have the work ethic, because I don't have the silver spoon. I don't have the Def Jam wants to sign me, or I don't have the, you know, everybody loves me. It's like I'm the, like you said, these people that we're naming are like the fifth and sixth. Like Ghost is like what, 2 steps above from You God and Capadonna. You know what I mean? So you know, Ruck, I mean, again, they're not the worst because you still got OGC, but I know people I would have picked Strain before Ruck. If you would have asked me, name all the people in the boot camp clique, the only other people who would have been ahead of Ruck is them other 2 niggas in OGC. You know what I mean? So, I mean, with Free, maybe Neef would have been, you know what I mean? Free would have been before Neef, you know? And one of my people's made a great point. Like, yo, out of everybody in State Property, Free got the biggest song with what they do.
Yeah.
And that's crazy, because I don't know if he got the biggest push, because remember, Petey Crack, you first saw him on Neo's first single. Like, that's a huge opportunity to start out with. And you know, Petey had like you couldn't have told me Free would have been the one out of that group. Hell no.
I thought Petey was up next. I'm like, yo, the dude got his own style. He on some Puerto Rican, light skin. The shorty's gonna fuck with him. Like you said, he on a Neo joint. Like, and again, that ring. Like, Petey just had his own swagger to him. But getting locked up, we did a show about niggas getting locked up. So Philly niggas, that's something we infamous for. You know, is getting locked up at the height of our career. We never get locked up at our lowest. We get locked up at the height. Like, we the best. We get locked up. So again, but like Spence said, Free's work ethic. But again, I just think when you're in a family and you know you're not the most popular kid, and you know your pop don't love you the most, and he ain't paying for you to go to school, and you're gonna have to pay for your own way, you have to come up with that work ethic, because you know nobody's gonna give you shit. You know what I mean? And it's kind of like that's what Ruck, Ghost, all the people we just named, they had was that work ethic of if I want to survive and I want to eat, I'm gonna have to do that. Now, I think back to Spencer's point of work ethic, you had people like maybe a you guy who didn't have that work ethic. Like, yo, I'm in the woo. I don't gotta do shit. Like, just sign me. And it's like, yeah, nigga, it don't work like that. You know what I mean? Like, you're gonna have to put something out there for it. Bro, you got yeah.
Can I say about the Master Ace thing? It's everything y'all said is so true because like if you go to the Master Ace Incorporated, the Slaughterhouse one,
Saturday night, whew,
yeah,
that was crazy.
Then you got songs like Jeep Ass Nigga and all that, right? And then you go to Sitting on Chrome, it's totally different. Like it's the sound is totally different, and I feel you. Like he probably not having that pressure, he could just do what he probably was like, yo,
do what he wanted,
what the hell he want to do, and he's dope. So like, you know, I know some people that didn't like the Sitting on Chrome stuff. I did, like, you know what I'm saying? It was dope to me, but he was able to just do what he want. A lot of artists with all that pressure, they're not taking that chance, bro. They're not taking that chance to start doing shit like that. So
here's the thing: when you take the chance without the pressure, you can come right back.
Yep.
Because think about it, if Meth makes some crazy album for his second album, like when you're on top, you don't have the ability to do that. You know what I mean? Because all eyes are on you. You know what I mean? So it's like, you know, like I said, you could be a Master Ace fan and never heard the first album. Like, whereas you look at all the rest, you heard Kane's first album, you heard G-Rap's first album, you heard Big's first album, you heard these albums, but when there's no pressure, I just think that gives you the freedom to kind of move any way you want. Spence, did you have anybody else that survived? Because I want to get to the people from the 80s that couldn't get past these years and kind of talk about them for a little bit too.
No, you kind of named a lot of the same people, so I'm good.
All right. Now, groups from the 80s that didn't survive. I'm going to just run through some of mine and we can just all go around. Audio 2, Top Billin', one of the greatest hip hop songs ever, you know, one of my favorite songs ever. But at the end of the day, I mean, Milk just wasn't that super lyrical. You know, I'm one of the very few people who even heard the second album. A lot of people don't even know they had a second album. And I like the second album. But again, even the first album, I mean, outside Top Billin', I Don't Care was my shit. Hickeys, was it Hickeys or Cherries? I forgot what it was. But neither album was great. Good singles, but, you know, they couldn't move it past. I'ma just throw out the whole PG-13 Herbie Love Bug crew. Kid and Play, Dana Dane, Kwame, Sweet Tea. None of them could survive past 93 because, in my opinion, PG-13 hip-hop died in 1990. If we want to get on some hip-hop is dead type shit like Nas, all that PG-13, Cinderfella, we just having fun hip-hop, ain't gonna hurt nobody. All that shit died in 1990. Like, nobody want to hear that shit no more. To me, the only reason why Kid and Play got thrown a lifeline is through House Party, because House Party dropped in, I think it's something like January or February of 90. You know, so that kind of gave him a little push. It was like a tush push. Shout out to the Eagles. It gave you that little push to get you over the line because everybody loved House Party. But the rest of them, you know, it was rap. Even though Kwame's sophomore album, A Day in the Life, which I love, again, another personal 5 mic classic that the average person hasn't probably heard. And to me, the only reason why Salt and Pepper survived was because they was fly and they was able to cross over and do the pop shit. They was able to do Let's Talk About Sex. They was able to do Shoop. Again, no hip hop play stations were playing Shoop. Bobbito and Stretch were not playing Let's Talk About Sex. So they were able, because of their looks, because if they weren't cute, I don't think they survived. But because they're fly and because, you know, they can go in that market, that was it. Stetson Sonic couldn't do it. They tried it with 91. Blood, Sweat, No Tears, that didn't work. Houdini came out with Bag of Tricks. Nobody wanted to hear that. Ultramagnetic, because it's heartbreaking. Y'all know my top 3 favorite album is Critical Beatdown. Their sophomore album, Funk Your Head, wasn't it? Kumo D came out with Funky Wisdom. Hell no. UTFO came out with Bag It and Bone It. Now, here's the funny thing. You got, it's crazy. This is 85 with the Roxanne, and it's 1993, and they coming out with Bag It or Bone It. You know what I mean? So that wasn't it. And this is where Marley started to fall off because In Control Volume 2, yo, if I could tell you the anticipation, because I love Marley's In Control Volume 1. Before Pete Rock's Soul Survivor was my favorite producer album. That Marley Marl In Control Volume 2, horrible. Just horrible. So those are some of the people who couldn't survive. Spence, who are some of the people from the 80s that, how the fuck did I forget Big Daddy Kane? Big Daddy Kane could not survive. I don't know what was wrong with me. Kane just wanted to be the lover boy. That was not it. That just did not transcend through Taste of Chocolate. Like, it was a gradual fall, because Taste of Chocolate wasn't trash. It wasn't trash. It just wasn't Long Live the Kane or It's a Big Daddy thing. But you could see that was the downfall. This is when your kid goes from all A's and now they in high school and you seeing some B's and you seeing some C's and nigga, you going down the path, my nigga. We about to get to some F's and they coming. Like Prince of Darkness and all of that shit. It was like, okay. And again, I think it was just because Kane, again, and I think too, I don't know how y'all felt. I used to think these niggas was my age. I didn't really realize that when I'm 14, Kane is like 21, like 22. So I was reading somewhere that Kane is like, yo, he always liked soul music. So Kane would be driving around listening to the OJs and listening to that shit. So when he got a chance to get with Quincy Jones, it was like, yo, this is what I love. Like, yeah, I spit, but I want to start making records with the people I like. And now you're making songs with Patti LaBelle. And it's like, nah, nigga, that is not, we don't want to hear that shit, bro. We want more raw and ain't no half stepping. And we don't want you doing songs with Quincy Jones and Back on the Block and all that shit. So, Spence, who you got up on some of your people who didn't survive?
Super Legacy, Casanova Rud.
Which is hard.
Yeah,
Such a
3 times dope. 3 times dope for me. That was a hard one. And I actually like the second album. I just think they put out that single that was bad. Look, the first single.
Yeah. And the Week in the Knees, John.
Yeah, and that just kind of smashed everything.
Now, let me say this about 3 times dope. And I tell a story all the time. The same way we were just talking about how Tribe's Can I Kick It remix kind of was ushering in what we were going to get from low end. My man Jason, shout out my man Champ, he used to dance for Loud Laugh. So I was always with him in high school. And 3D's third album was called Major Flavors. And my man Jace had the cassette of it. I mean, it wasn't official, wasn't on no Arista. It was like, yo, it's some old straight from the studio type shit. Don't let nobody hear this. And he let me hear it. Yo, the album was crazy. I really believe that if this album would have came out, and if people haven't seen it, go look at 3 times dope, no words, the video version, because that was the sound that was Major Flavors. And I really believe that if that third album would have dropped and Arista wouldn't have dropped them or shelved them or whatever happened, if that album dropped, put it this way, in my life, I've had so many dope tapes. I used to go to New York. I had all my Mr. Magic and Red Alert tapes. I had all my mixtapes. I had like 4 Timberland boxes full of mixtapes. I've had thousands of tapes over the year. And if God said you could have one tape back, it would be that 3 times dope album. That's how dope that album was, that I'd be like, yo, I don't fuck all these other tapes. God, give me back that third fucking 3 times. That's how dope that album was. So I really think if it would have dropped, it would have been it. We'd be talking about 3 times dope, I think, in a different light. But, you know, coulda, shoulda, woulda, it didn't. So, but who else you got, Spence?
No, that's it. That's all I got.
That's it. Vague, who you got that couldn't survive? Boys from the 80s who couldn't get past these dead zone years.
I didn't really write any, but off the top, MC Shan would be one of them. MC Shan was, you know, he was just as big as everybody else. And, you know, even after The Bridge Is Over, he had some joints, but just didn't matter. Mainly not just because of the battle, but his style was old. You know, his style was really old by that time. You know, by the time we got to the 90s with all these other guys. So yeah, I think that's one of the reasons why with him. Let's keep it in the family. Roxanne Shante. At one point, it was like she was a force to be reckoned with, and I think she made one attempt in the 90s diss record called like Big Mama or something like that. dissing everybody, and the record was dope, but Kool G Rap wrote it, so that kind of killed that whole vibe after that. So yeah, off the top, those are two I could think of that from the 80s, and you named some of them also. So.
And it's funny because I was like, yo, Have a Nice Day was dope, but that dropped in 89 too. So like that was like her, that was the last last glimmer of like Roxanne Shante, like the way we knew her, was that Have a Nice Day. Bro, anybody who survived on your end?
Yeah.
I mean, who didn't survive. I'm sorry, groups from the 80s that didn't get past.
Y'all can guide me on this one. I not survive, but I feel like this artist was going through a change, trying to keep up, and I didn't particularly care for it, and that was MC Lyte. Roughneck and all that. Listen, I'm a Lyte fan. I didn't care for that. That wasn't. I feel like she was going through basically the changes in the sound of hip hop, like you said earlier. 3 years is like 12 years in hip hop, like the way stuff changed so fast. So I feel like during that time she was going through a change, because her stuff after was kind of like, I don't know, not forced, but trying to keep up.
She had to play the keep up game. So no, I mean, Lyte's a great pick, and shout out to my man Nick again. A great example. Nick is younger than me, and he schooled me to a lot of things, and just from being in Atlanta, he had told me this once. He's like, Kill, I think Atlanta allows our artists to be more free flowing. You know what I mean? Like, if 3,000 wants to sing, we really don't give a fuck. Up north, y'all keep y'all artists in these boxes where, like, when Tip tried to do Vibrant thing, we like, nigga, get the fuck out of here. Go back to rhyming like that. You'll have a Mos who has the ability to kind of do it. When Common tried to do something different, we like, nope, nigga, take that sweater off, get back in the studio. Like, and I think with the female, I think females are granted the opportunity to be able to try different things, because I think if an artist of Lyte's caliber, like, I don't know who we could like say who's kind of like not equal to Lyte, but I don't know if a G-Rap would have been, and I'm only saying G-Rap because I always say G-Rap had Men at Work, which was like 75 bars, and MC Lyte had Survival of the Fittest. So that's the only reason why I'm comparing those two right now. G-Rap is not going to be able to make a Roughneck song or a Poor Georgie song. Like, we're going to crucify him for that. Whereas as a female MC, she's able to do it. Like, we may not personally like it, but I want to hold you. I want to say Roughneck, Poor Georgie is off that Roughneck album, Act Like You Know. And I didn't mind Poor Georgie. But again, are we gonna give that same leeway to Kool G Rap? Are we gonna give that same leeway to Kane? We didn't give it to Kane, so that's a perfect example. We didn't. You have to stay here. And same thing that I said with Salt and Pepa, because they're cute and they're able to cross over and go do Shoop and Let's Talk About Sex and Express Yourself and all those joints. You know what I mean? Kid and Play is not going to have the opportunity to do that. Hold up. I'm hitting you right now, Spence. What's up?
Yeah, because Salt and Pepper, they wound up having their biggest success late in their career.
Right. So the album that I call a 5 mic classic, Hot, Cool, and Vicious. I mean, most people don't even know that album. They'll go with Shake Your Thing with Assault with a Deadly Pepper before, which was a horrible title. I thought it was Fly 1989, but Assault with a Deadly Pepper, like, no, it's a horrible fucking title. But you're 100% right. That's when they had their biggest What a Man. We ain't letting fucking, who else, what male artists are we giving you could do a song with In Vogue or do a song with an R&B group like at that time. So again, I just think with Lyte, we give more of an open lane to, go out here and try different things, and if it sticks, it sticks. We don't give that, as a male artist, you don't get that opportunity. What are you saying, Spence?
And Lyte actually had some minor success with those songs too. That's why she was able to keep on doing it.
Right. You know what I mean? Because at the end of the day, great point. It's a record business. So if you're getting the airplay and you're getting this, then we're gonna keep the party going. The thing is we didn't give that leeway to Kid and Play. We didn't give that leeway to Kwame because people think it was Biggie that killed Kwame. I mean, I don't think Kwame was popping anymore after that second album. And that second album was, I want to say, 91. And like I said, I'm one of the few people who love that album. Most people know Only You, and that's about it. You know what I mean? So Kwame to me was kind of dead in the water before Biggie said you played out like Kwame and them fucking polka dots. That was what, 94? Only You came out 91. For 3 years, wasn't nobody checking for Kwame. You know what I mean? So it really wasn't Biggie that killed that nigga. It was just, that was just the fucking icing on the cake because nobody was even checking for, like I said, that whole crew. Fucking Kid and Play, Kwame, Dana Dane, Sweet Tea, Antoinette, everybody who was in that Herbie Love Bug crew was done by the time 1990 came. And like I said, the only reason why Kid and Play got the tush push is because of House Party. By the time House Party 2 came out, nobody wanted to see that shit. Fuck House Party 2. How about Class Act? Nobody cared about that no more. It was obvious that you struck it on House Party, but nigga, Class Act, nah, we good. Like, there is no more leeway for y'all niggas no more.
Yo, you don't know. The internet says Class Act is better than House Party. I kept reading it over and over again, and I was like, maybe
stop playing, man.
I was like, maybe this is a different generation. I don't know, but I don't.
Bro,
remember.
This is this revisionist history that I can't do. People are trying to say Class Act was better than House Party.
It's the better.
Not even that I loved all that, but I mean, that they just redid a House Party with LeBron in them a couple of years ago. So, we done had House Party with them goddamn Omarion, what's his name? Omarion, little kids, them little niggas. I don't know how niggas be making this shit up. This is why everybody don't need a platform.
I got one more I thought of.
Who you got? They tried with Down with the King. They were going through all these different phases. I remember when what was that album? Is it Tougher Than Leather? I remember when Jam Master Jay, God bless the dead, had Locks. It was a joint called the Av. That was kind of hard. The Ab was kind of hard. But then when, then they did the youngsters thing and they all got fucking bald heads and walker-wear gear. Like, and that was the last attempt. And it was like, after that, it was like, yeah, nigga, nah.
And they tried to come back, I think, late 90s, early 2000s.
Was it Crown Royal was the name of that album? Crown Royal?
Crown Royal.
Yeah. That's it. So let's look at some of these years. So 1990, because what I don't want people to do is think no dope hip hop came out during these years. So let's look at some of these albums. We had Tribe's Instinctives, Cube's America's Most Wanted, K Solo's Tell the World My Name, PRT's Holy Intellect, Eric B. and Rakim, Let the Rhythm Hit 'Em, Master Ace, Take a Look Around, Special Ed, Legal, LL, Mama Said Knock You Out, which to me is one of the greatest albums of all time. One for All, Brand Nubians, EPMD's Business as Usual. So again, I don't want people thinking like, yo, these years were just whack, because there was some very dope music. But even out of these albums, again, outside maybe Cube's America's Most Wanted and LL, I don't know how big these albums were. You know what I mean? I know people always say, especially in New York, that One for All would have went platinum but got bootlegged. So again, that may even be an asterisk we want to put on this year about bootlegging. You know what I mean? Because before this, I had never really heard about albums getting bootleg like that. Like, I don't remember being able to be on Market Street and buying a bootleg copy of It Takes a Nation. You know what I mean? So, and again, I don't know, maybe that's a New York thing, and you could speak on that, but that's what I've always heard from New York is that, yo, if bootlegging didn't exist, One for All would have been platinum.
I didn't think about that, but that's true. That's when bootlegging kind of took off. My cassette, I think is over there, of America's Most Wanted is a bootleg. Because every time I go to grab it, I'm like, because this shit all blurry and shit. Like, why is shit blurry?
Right.
Like, oh, it's a bootleg. But you're right. In the 90s, early 90s, that's when bootleg was crazy. Because you could literally go, downtown Brooklyn, and this is when the shit was just out. It was have a bunch of tapes and be like 3 for $5, and you like, this nigga got Tribe, blah, blah, like you could come up, you know what I'm saying? And damn, that's so true, yo. That's probably what happened to Brand Nubian. everybody bought the bootleg instead of the real
Yeah.
shit.
Yeah. So I mean, like that's something that, we gotta keep in mind too. Again, PG-13 hip hop died in 1990. They don't dance no more. Like House Party was it. Like that was like this is the and keep in mind, whenever albums or movies are being made, like House Party may have been made in 1988, 89, probably 89. You know what I mean? And it just didn't drop until 1990. You know what I mean? So again, Kid and Play, High Top Fade, because by the time 1990, that was like the last of the High Top Fade. That's when I remember being like, fuck, I'm gonna do next, y'all. I don't know what am I doing with all this hair next? Because this shit is getting played out. So sometime between that, I want to even say in 1990, my graduation pictures, I still have a High Top Fade because I had to take my graduation pictures in like late 90. But by 91 came, High Top Fades was dead. That's why Kid in Class Act, he had like the twist or something. So yeah, so it was almost like you gotta adapt to that. 91, and again, we had Stephanie Arena with Gangstar, Niggas with Life, NWA, De La Soul is Dead, Heavy's Peaceful Journey, Pete and CL's All Sold Out, like Spence said, Leaders of New School, A Future Without a Past, Tribe to Low End, Death Certificate, which I posted the Chronic this week because I was talking with some of my people. They said, yo, is this the GOAT West Coast album ever? I think it is. But a lot of people was like, nah, I'd give it to Cube's Death Certificate. So, you know what I mean? Just in that year of 1991, you do have some heavy hitters. Now, 92, now you got Daily Operation, Gangstar's Daily Operation, Pete and CL's Mecca and the Soul Brother, EPMD's Business as Usual, Redman's What, Diamond Stunt Blunts, Puba's Real to Real, G-Rap's Live and Left Die, The Chronic, Blue Funk, and then late 93. I mean, and the thing about 91 and 92, I was saying I call those the alley-oop years because I felt like we were getting introduced to people who could really rhyme and was going to take hip-hop to the next level, who's kind of passing the baton because you're hearing Redman on EPMD's joint. And you're like, damn, who is this? You're hearing Snoop on The Chronic, and you're really seeing like, Guru and EPMD, like these were dope lyrical people in like 1990. You know what I mean? Like I never heard anybody say, yo, Eric and P can't rap. You know what I mean? Now I hear people say things like, they weren't the dopest. But yo, when EPMD was dropping, nobody was like listening to Gold Digger. Like, this really ain't that dope. Like, no, nigga, those niggas was dope. But then you heard Redman and you was like, oh shit, like this nigga's dope, or you heard Snoop on Deep Cover. I remember that being like, oh shit, who is this? I remember thinking his name was Snoop Eastwood. You know what I mean? Like, so it's like you're now being introduced through these groups to the next people who are gonna come, whether it's J. Rue on Daily Operation. Like there was a lot of alley-oops happening. We get to 93, we got In God We Trust. I was never a fan of Reaching by Diggable Planets, but hell, shit won a Grammy. 1993, Back the Fuck Up, Intoxicated Demons, The Youngsters, The Aftermath, Run DMC's Down to King, Vagina Diner, Black Sunday, 21 and Older, Balloon Monster, and Here Comes the Lords. And then I think, because Ed was talking about this, and he was like, yo, Kill, 93, a lot of heavy hitters came out, but they came out at the end. So September came Boom Bap. October came Into the Stage. Midnight and Enter came in November, and Doggy Style came in November. So it's kind of like those huge albums came at like the end of the year and that's what I meant by big albums. Like Midnight Mirage was a huge album. Of course, Wu-Tang was a huge album. Doggy Style was a huge album. We weren't really getting those albums from 90 up until the end of 1993. And then when you go into 94, then it's just off to the races. It's Ready to Die. It's Illmatic. It's just... So I think that this is why like people forget about those years, because if we just ended in 93 with Here Come the Lords, you know what I mean? 93 is just it's a good year. It's a solid year for hip hop. And if we take Midnight, Into the Stage, and Doggy Style and just move them over to 94, 93 is just a blah year again. You know what I mean? So crazy years. Like any thoughts on like, what was going on those years, why we weren't getting those crazy joints like that?
I think actually 3 to 5 years is always a span of MCs coming or groups coming and going, then the whole style changes. So I think by that time, the 93 to 94, that's when you get the next generation of MCs and groups that's going to run for the next so many years. And it's all we always pushing out. You think about the early '80s to the late '80s and stuff. You always have a set group of people. Then the next group comes. Then the next group comes. Then the next group, because it's like almost like black fashion. We'll be cool with it for a minute. Then 2-3 years later, we don't want to mess with it no more. And it's almost the same thing what we did with rap. And I think at the time, hip hop was so small that we artists kind of based themselves on one particular group or fan base, and that's it. When you look at today's group, everybody can survive in their own pocket and don't have to worry about catering to everybody's crowd. Right. And I think that's probably the best part even of today's hip hop. You have your own niche group, and you can just, whether you sell 1 million, 500,000, 100,000, you still can have your fan base cater to you. But back then, you had to cater to everybody because hip hop wasn't as big back then. Right.
And on top of that, it's a great point. But on top of that, you gotta cater to the record label, because at the end, you still, like I always compare it to living with your parents. Like, you have the support of this label, but you also have to be able, like the same way growing up, if your parents have you got to get all A's in this house. You know what I mean? You got to keep shooting for that every time. So we got to sell these records. If we don't sell these records, then we owe the record label money, and then we can't recoup, because then the bill we owe from that album went over to this album, so we can't do that. So I think, that's the other thing too, and kind of like not knowing where hip hop was gonna go. I remember Madlib said once Dilla died, he was like, it's kind of like what we doing now. Like, Dilla kind of was like at least for that stage of producers, it kind of was like, okay, we're all trying to not bite Dilla, but we kind of all follow Dilla's lead. So now that he's gone, what are we doing now? It's almost like that time where you don't know what you're doing. So you're just like, babe, you said with Run DMC, like, niggas are just grasping at straws. Like, okay, let's go get some walkwear and go ball. Like, you know what I mean? Like we just trying to grab on. It's almost literally like you're sliding off this hill and you're trying to just grab on to anything before you just fall the hell off to your death. Because that's really what it's like. Bro, like you said, the youngsters, they don't know who they wanted to be. The first album, they was kids. The second album, they was from Jersey. The third album, they got dark fades again and shape ups. The fourth album, now they the Illy Philly Funksters. So every album, they were a different entity. And here's the crazy part. I just was watching the interview with them, and they a group again, but without Karan. So now it's just Taj and the other boy. But it's like, who are y'all? Y'all the Illy Funk? Like, I don't even know what y'all name is now. You know what I mean? So, like you said, Spence, I think it's a lot. And a lot of groups were able to change. Like, I think Gangstar was able to get out that jazz shit. You know what I mean? Like, they didn't get caught up. Like, Diggable just kept making that jazz. Vague, you got the perfect fucking imitation of them. Like, I beat the baby. Like, whatever you do is like the perfect shit. And they just got stuck there where Gangstar was like, okay, this jazz shit, okay, let's go over here and do Hard to Earn. You know what I mean? And we all have heard it. If you haven't heard it, people watching, go Google Nas Represent Original, and you'll hear Premier's original beat to Represent, which is very jazzy. It was like stuck in that jazzy bass line joint. You could just tell that it was an older beat, that if that would have been put on Illmatic, it just would have sounded out of place. And what the story is, Primo heard Pete's The World Is Yours and was like, oh, nah, I got to go back. We got to go back and redo that, because now that jazz shit is played out. Nobody want to hear them jazz bass lines like that shit no more. You got to come with something different.
And you know what's crazy about that? He still sampled jazz because it was Smile Philly, but it had a more sinister,
darker feel to it.
Right.
Yep. You know what I mean? So that whole back in the day, because I used to tell people in the 90s, it kind of was easy to make beats. You just got a break beat, found you a jazz bass line, and found you some horns. Like, it was literally like making a turkey sandwich. Like your mom would just be like, get 2 slices of bread, put some mayo on, get some cheese, put a turkey, boom, there's your sandwich, you off to school. Like, it literally was that simple. But then you hear the new Represent, and it's a different vibe to it. And I think one of the things we all talked about, that the groups who did survive, they had to change somehow, some way. So whether it was, Mobb Deep going from hit it from the back and walking around with them damn, I don't even know, what do you call them things that like you whisk corn away with?
The sickles.
The sickles.
Right.
Whether you change from that to now you on a fucking Queensbridge rooftop, or you got to be able to adapt, because Gangstar could have easily got caught up in that jazz shit, and like you said, Veg, that diggable shit, like that was a glimpse. That was like a snap, a drop in the bucket, because it was like, okay, we don't want to hear that weirdo shit no more. Like, that's why I never fucked with him, because I'm like, I don't even know what y'all talking about. A nickel bag of funk. Are you talking about weed? Are you talking about music? I don't be knowing what y'all talking. I don't like that hip hop where it's fucking all these. Tell me what you talking about. So, yeah. Oh, with Blue Funk, like I think that was the first time I heard Big. I can't remember if Blue Funk came first or right. So it's like, that's what I'm saying. Like, we were getting these alley oops of who's up next. You know what I mean? Like Spence said, like, here, this is the new generation that's gonna kind of keep us going. And yeah, I mean, these are some fucked up years, man. And again, when people talk about the 90s being a golden era, I rarely hear about any of these albums, again, outside of Wu or Midnight, and any of these groups. It's crazy, man. It's crazy. What you think, Ray?
Yeah, I'll just rattle off a couple of names who I just wrote down, whether they survived or not. Like Lord Finesse, Digital Underground.
Great ones.
Who else? We said all of these, like Main Source, Farside, Showbiz and AG, Das Effects, UGK, Souls of Mischief, right?
Yeah.
If you leave it up to Twitter, they got one record.
Right.
And that one record has sustained them. So, yeah, I think I agree. Like, there was a lot of great music. And for me at that time, probably 92, because a lot of my cassettes are from 92. I realized that, because that's when I can like go and buy albums myself. Prior to that, it was more so, let me get a copy type thing. So a lot of that music, whether it be good or bad, like speaks to me in a totally different way, because it was my coming of age. So whether it was Illegal and Chi Ali, or Ice Cube, or G-Rap, Live and Let Die, like I was listening to these albums like constantly. And I think for me, again, I was always listening to the West Coast as well as the East Coast. And I kind of like I said earlier, I started to get a little sick of the goofy wordplay, right? Like Organized Confusion was more on my speed. Like, if you want wordplay like that, cool. But I kind of wanted more from the East Coast, and I didn't know what that was. It just was what it was, whatever we got. But I think it's a very dope time, because what stands out to me amongst all those names from 90 to 93, it's probably the most versatile time in hip hop ever.
Yeah,
like,
everybody's different.
Everybody's different. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, like looking at this, like Daily Operation to me sounds nothing like Mecca and the Soul Brother. That sounds nothing like Business Never Personal, which sounds nothing like What, which sounds not like Stunt Blunts and Hip Hop, which sounds nothing like Real to Real, which sounds nothing like Live and Let Die, which sounds nothing like The Chronic, which sounds nothing like Blue Funk.
Right. None of them sound the same. Like, you keep going on and on and on, and it was a time, like you said, whether you were in the background or not, everybody was being creative. And I appreciate it for that time. But to your point, it's sort of like, once we got the Ready to Dies and the Illmatics, that's literally all everybody remembers, which is great.
And then you go for one more year, and then you go into the Only Built for Cuban Links. Like, this is what I mean. Like, this is the era now that we're getting into, of where people are like, these are my favorite albums ever.
Right.
You know what I mean? People are like, yo, Ready to Die is my favorite album ever, or Illmatic, or Only Built for Cuban Links. Some people have The Chronic, but most of that stuff started, again, late 93. Not too many of these albums from 91, Stephanie Arena, Niggas for Life, maybe De La Is Dead, Peaceful Journey, All Sold Out, maybe Low End, and Death Certificate. So there are some. I'm not saying that there aren't, but the albums we hear every day on Twitter, the albums that are always talked about, is that 94 plus. Spence, you were about to say something?
No, I'm good.
Oh, my bad. That was you, bro. I'm sorry. What were you going to say, bro?
Yeah, I was just going to piggyback off of what I was saying, like how the different sounds, bro. Like it was just when I was doing like my little research for this subject, I was just like, damn, like this shit is all over the place. You know what I'm saying? Like it's really all over the place. And it's interesting, like, look at LL, right? During this time. You know, 90 Mama Said Knock You Out, right? But 14 Shots to the Dome is 93.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if you stop right there, you like, man, what's going to happen with him? Like, could he fall into where some of our other legends, but then he comes back in 95 for Mr. Smith, and then he just keeps going. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's like kind of a testament to his career, because I remember 14 Shots to the Dome. I remember what
it was bad.
Yeah, I remember what he was trying to do with that, and it just didn't. And it's like, okay, are you going to come back again like you did?
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
The thing that I always tell people with L is talented. Y'all know how I love L. But the thing about L is that L was a sex symbol to these shorties. Which, because I always say, if LL looked like DMC, this nigga's career is over. You know, and that's no disrespect to D, but women were in love with LL. So you know what LL was able to do? He was able to get with the track masters and make a Hey Lover. You know what I mean? With Boys the Men. You know, now, of course, on that album, Mr. Smith, the bulk of that album is just loops. I mean, hell, it starts off with looping SOS Band, Tell Me If You Still Care. The next song is literally looping DeBarge's I Like It. The next song is literally looping Michael Jackson's Lady in My Life. Like, we're just literally just naming songs. And then, of course, we get the, Who Shot Ya? I always get confused. Which the fuck one is LL and Biggie? Biggie's is I Shot You. No, Biggie's LL's I Shot You. So, of course, then we get that. We get that the remix with Prodigy and Keith Murray and all them. But I don't, again, if LL looks like DMC, I don't see us being able to look past this nigga's just looping up all these familiar songs. Like, and, not again, because again, when I was in Strictly Hip Hop, the only thing we played off that album was I Shot You. That was it. We were not playing hip hop, looping up DeBarge. We were only playing I Shot You type thing. So I think that's it for L, but it's funny, I'm even looking at this, and now we in 93, and God We Trust sounds not like Diggable. Diggable sounds not like Naughty by Nature, 1993. That sounds nothing like Onyx's Back the Fuck Up. That sounds nothing like the Beatnuts Intoxicated Demons, which sounds nothing like Alkanelli's Vagina Diner, which sounds nothing like Cypress Black Sunday, which sounds nothing like the Alcoholics 21 and Over, which sounds nothing like De La's Balloon or Lords of the Underground. You know what I mean?
I had a lot of tapes, Kill, because I was just everything was different. So it was like, yo,
yeah. But it's a good point. I think that this is a good point for younger viewers who are listening to why people our age are always. I get tired of the drumless hip hop because it all sounds the same. Like, we're coming from an era where everybody wants to sound different, where everybody is sounding different, and you're talented enough to sound different and have your own style. You know what I'm saying? And to me, it's no excuse for it now because there's no label telling you have to do this. If all this drumless shit was going on in the 90s, niggas would be like, yo, it's the label, it's the label. No, well, nigga, it's no label. It's just you, nigga. You know what I mean? So you are biting nigga styles and you are doing this. And during this time, too, we have the Aftermath and Down with the King. The reason I want to bring up those albums is because, to me, those albums were the beginning of what started what I call the value mill production template. Because the youngsters, really, people think it's Omatic. It was the youngsters' Aftermath because it was the Beatnuts, it was KG, it was, I think, Premier had a track on there, Marley had a track on there. So that was like the first time it was like, yo, we're going to get all these dope producers together. And then, Vague, to your point, Down with the King was very similar. You had Pete Rock tracks, so all these albums that we're naming before were either produced in-house. They were produced in-house. I mean, Daily is Premier, Mecca is Pete, Business is Eric and Paris, What is Eric, Diamond, Stunts Blunts is Diamond, Real to Real is the S950s, Live and Let Die. I forgot who were the producers on that, Vague. You remember? It was the track masters. A lot of track masters did that. Spence, what you got to say?
Is that Sir Jinx? I'm not sure.
Yeah, that was
Sir Jinx. Thank you. Yeah, Sir Jinx. So Sir Jinx is on that. The Chronic is all Dre. Blue Funk may have been a little mixture, but I'm just, for people watch, I'm just saying for the most part, this is when people still were either doing their in-house production or you just had one producer who was doing it. But after 94, after 93 with the Aftermath and Down with the King, now you, of course, you get your Illmatic, and now you can have your, oh, that I didn't know I could get a Premier and I could get a Pete Rock and I could get a, because up until that time, those producers only produced for the people in their crew. You know what I mean? So that opened the door too.
I think the difference with Illmatic versus those other artists is the fact that this was a debut. It was a guy who had never had anything, and it's like, well, how he did. We know why he has them all, and we've seen in the music business, like, give these kids the best productions so they can have a better chance. But he was a relatively unknown, so to get all these heavy hitters, I think that was the attraction.
True.
In his history.
True. Would you say in front, Spence?
And also, I think it was the level of MCing that Nas was. Like the youngsters,
it's only like so much.
Right. So you got the level of an MC of Nas matched with the producers of that time too. So I think that meshed together kind of got everybody excited.
Yeah. And again, it's just like that's what now made people say, oh, snap, I didn't know we could do that. You know what I mean? I didn't know I could go out and buy a Premier beat. You know, I didn't know I could go buy an Eric Sermon beat. I didn't know I could go out and get a Dr. Dre beat. You know what I mean? So now, I'll never forget, I was at the Howard Theater here in DC a couple of years ago. I won't say the MC's name, but I was talking to this MC and I was trying to sell him some beats. This nigga is trying to sell me some verses. I'm like, God damn, this is where we at with MCs? Like, this nigga was trying to like, yo, nigga, you should buy one of my verses. I'm like, the fuck are you talking about? Why would I buy a verse? Because from the whole MySpace thing, it was like, oh, now MCs you can buy a verse. You know, you want Sky Zoo on your album? You can have Sky Zoo on your album too. If you would like to pay $1,000 or however much Sky pays. So it just was a, oh shit moment. Like, damn, this is where we at? Like, we both trying, like Spider-Man. Like, I'm trying to sell, you trying to sell. Like, and I'm like, damn, this is where we at. That MCs are literally trying to sell verses now. You know what I mean?
What Benny doing right now with the fucking sweepstakes?
I didn't hear what he was doing, but it sounded like what is it? What is he doing? I kind of saw it. It was like, yo, send me a joint, but you have to pay for it. Well, what is it?
He said it's free, but then he said you got to pay $100. He said you got to pay $100 later. But it was like to jump on a song with him. But if you open it up like that, right? Like, well, shit, I mean, versus plenty of people out there with money, they ain't got to be famous. How many verses he gonna do? And somebody put in the comments, this ain't gonna give everybody the same verse.
That's what I would think. You know, because like you said, there's a nigga right now on the block in Philly that got 5 G's in his pocket. Like, yo, I love to get, I've been trying to rap. Let me get Benny on this. Like, Benny, you better have a lot of bars, or like you said, you just gonna get the same verse, every go round. You know what I mean? So definitely a dope conversation, man, for all the people who may have not heard these albums. Again, all the albums I named, and there's a lot more. Again, we're in no way saying that 90 through 93 was whack. It's actually just the opposite. It was more so of like, let's try to figure out why these years don't get the love that they get. So, Vague, let them know where they can get at you, bro.
All right, man. 2 things. Go Yankees. We just sent the Red Sox home, so fuck out of here. Also, shout out to Vince. He's one of the people who supported my channel when I had like 100 subscribers or some shit. He was the only one commenting, all of that good shit. Shout out to you, bro. You can check me out on social media at Vegas World INC, and check out my podcast, Hip Hop Now Podcast, available here on YouTube, also on in audio form, of course. Latest episode, by the time this comes out, I have a couple, but one you should check out is my reaction to Pitchfork's top 100 albums list. I don't usually do this, but it was interesting. What made it interesting for me was like, oh wait, Mobb Deep, Infamous is number 1. So I had to go in on the list, and the list is kind of crazy, but we know Pitchfork don't really know hip hop like that, so check that out. It's on the channel, Hip Hop Now Podcast.
All right, bro. Where can I get at you, bro?
Uptown World 215 on Instagram, JBen215 on Twitter or X. And that's it.
All right. Spence, where can I get at you, bro?
88 Special on IG and Twitter.
All right. And y'all know me, Kill889, Twitter, IG, book, Worm That I Am, Dust and Grooves, Adventures and Records. You know what I mean? That's such an ill pic to me of this dude sitting on top of all these records right at the ceiling. I mean, if you're a collector, I mean, this is just an incredible book to get. I mean, one thing that I can never get tired of is looking at pictures of records, seeing different people's record rooms, some amazing interviews in here. You know, you got Questlove's record room, you know, very dope interview with Quest. So again, if you are in the digging, definitely a book that you should check out. I will check y'all people next week, good peoples.